Topaz is one of, if not the best partner for Facial. If you want to maximize your Facial's damage, then you want to maximize your Topaz too. In this video, I'll walk you through everything you need to know about Topaz, such as her kit, builds, relics, Eidolons, Lightcones, team comps, and much more. I'm your host Myschyff, and this is my guide to Topaz. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. Topaz is a limited 5-star fire unit following the hunt path and gets things done with her partner Numby. In battle, Numby will launch follow-up attacks on the enemies while Topaz enhances the team's damage. She mainly fits into follow-up attack comps where you can maximize the buffs and damage she dishes out. Her basic attack deficit is nothing too flashy and deals fire damage to a single target enemy. However, thanks to her A2 trace, when Topaz uses her basic attack on an enemy, it will be considered as a follow-up attack. Although it may not seem much at first, it actually benefits her partner Numby a lot. Thanks to her talent Trotter Market, Topaz summons Numby at the start of the battle with the initial speed of 80. Whenever Numby takes action, they launch a follow-up attack onto a single enemy target afflicted with Proof of Depth, dealing fire damage equal to 150% of Topaz's attack. Whenever enemies afflicted with Proof of Depth receive an ally's follow-up attack, Numby's action is advanced by 50%. However, the advanced forward effect cannot be triggered during Numby's own turn. This means other allies have to use their own follow-up attacks to trigger the advanced forward effect. Topaz's skill, Difficulty Playing, inflicts the Proof of Depth status to a single target enemy, increasing the damage enemies receive from follow-up attacks by 50%. Proof of Depth only takes effect on the most recent target it is applied to, meaning only one enemy unit on the field can have this effect. But if there are no enemies on the field inflicting with Proof of Depth during an ally's turn or when they take action, Topaz will select a random enemy target to inflict the Proof of Depth status to. Additionally, Numby will deal fire damage equal to 150% of Topaz's attack to the enemy unit. Lastly, using this skill to deal damage is considered as a follow-up attack. Topaz's ultimate turn of profit is when Numby turns up the heat. Numby enters the Windfall Bonanza state and increases its damage multiplier by 150% and crit damage increases by 25%. It doesn't even stop there too, because when enemies afflicted with Proof of Depth are hit by an ally's basic attack, skill, or ultimate, Numby's action is advanced by 50%. However, after 2 attacks, Numby will exit the Windfall Bonanza state. Onto a technique, Explicit Subsidy. When casted in the overworld, Topaz summons Numby. But what sets Topaz apart from other 5-star units, Numby will automatically begin searching for basic treasures and trotters within a set radius, meaning you do not have to worry that much about mindlessly searching for hours or looking up treasure locations on YouTube. Additionally, using her technique regenerates 60 energy for Topaz after Numby's first attack in the next battle. Her technique also offers more unique benefits. If Topaz is still in the same team after using her technique and defeating overworld enemies, a small bonus amount of credits will be added to the earned credits. Players with Topaz in their party are able to receive a maximum of 10,000 credits per calendar day. So when the game refreshes the daily rewards is when you're able to receive this effect again. Her last effect works in Simulated Universe and Divergent Universe. After using her technique and defeating enemies in Simulated Universe or Divergent Universe, you receive a small amount of cosmic fragments with a small chance to obtain one random curio. The effects she offers are quite interesting and unique and seem like small quality of life upgrades that other characters do not offer. Now let's move on to her other major traces. Her A4 Financial Turmoil increases Topaz and Nummy's damage dealt to enemies with fire weakness by 15%. This increases Topaz's personal damage by a bit, however its value may vary as it is dependent on enemy units being weak to fire. Her A6 trace, Stonks Market, grants an additional 10 energy after Numby uses an attack while in the Windfall Bonanza state, allowing Topaz to generate her ultimate much faster. For minor traces, you receive a 22% fire damage boost, a 12% crit rate boost, and a 10% HP boost. Lastly, for her talent priority, you want to focus on skill, ultimate, talent, and basic. You don't need to worry about leveling up her basic unless you want to truly maximize your Topaz's damage. Onto her relic sets, and I'll be quickly going through them. The Ash Blazing Grand Duke set still stands on top as Topaz's best option. The 2-piece effect increases her follow-up attack damage by 20%. With this, you're able to mix and match with other sets such as Pioneer, Musketeer, and Firesmith Lava Forging. However, I recommend that you run the 4-piece Ash Blazing Grand Duke set as it increases the wearer's attack by 6% whenever their follow-up attacks deal damage. This effect can stack up to 8 times and last for 3 turns, and the effect is removed the next time the wearer uses a follow-up attack. This increases the attack stat for Numby and dishes out good damage at the same time. However, Pioneer Diver is another good option worth considering if you're looking to go for a more debuff route on your Topaz, with Pioneer being only 2% better than the Grand Duke set. The 4-piece effect offers 4% crit rate to the wearer and 8 to 12% increased crit damage to enemies with at least 2 or 3 debuffs. This is easily accessible through Topaz's skill, as Proof of Depth is considered as one debuff. There are other sources you can include, such as Topaz's E1, S1 and Aventurine's ultimate. For planar sets, Duran is going to be her best option. Any ally that launches a follow-up attack allows the wearer to receive 1 stack of merit. This can stack up to 5 times, and every stack of merit received increases by 5%. Additionally, when 5 stacks of merit are built, the wearer also receives 25% increased crit damage. So when Duran's in full effect, you'll receive a 25% increase in your follow-up attacks and 25% crit damage increase. Izumo is another fantastic option worth mentioning, since the wearer's attack is increased by 12%. Also, another cool feature worth mentioning: when Topaz enters battle equipped with Izumo and paired with units such as Dr. Ratio or Fei Shao, her crit rate is increased by 12%, since they both follow the hunt path. The 12% crit rate from Izumo will always be active when entering battle if Topaz is paired with another hunt unit. In Salsoto is an okay option, offering 8% crit rate to the wearer without any restrictions, but if the current wearer's crit rate is 50% or higher, their ultimate and follow-up attacks increases by 15%. This set acts similarly to Duran, but offers less damage and restriction, since you need to reach 50% or higher to access its full effect. However, the new set, Wondrous Bananas Amusement Park, has no restrictions whatsoever in this effect, offering 16% crit damage when the set is equipped, and you receive another 32% crit damage too when a target summoned by the wearer is on the field. To put it into perspective, on paper this seems like Topaz's ideal set, as it has no build-up and no restrictions. She's able to permanently maintain this uptime too, since Numby leaves the field when Topaz is knocked out. The only problem, however, follow-up attack comps already receive an insane amount of crit damage from Robin, Aventurine's ultimate and an E1 S1 Topaz. For main stats, you want to focus on crit rate or crit damage chest piece. Try to maintain the 1:2 crit damage ratio, but Topaz can get away with being a bit high on crit rate, since she's gaining other sources for crit damage such as her ultimate, Aventurine's ultimate, Robin's talent and A4 trace. Her last source of crit damage comes from her E1 and S1, so you're gaining an insane amount of crit damage if you're running the premium follow-up attack comp with high investment. Go for speed boots as you want to hit the 134 speed breakpoint. You could go for attack boots, but make sure you're able to hit the 134 speed breakpoint with your substats. For sphere, I recommend you go fire damage orb. For rope, you want to go attack percent, since you want to hit 2500 attack on Topaz. For substats, you want to prioritize speed, crit rate, crit damage, then attack percent. Onto a quick review on our Eidolons. Topaz's E1 is going to be the best stopping point for low spenders. Enemies afflicted with Proof of Depth will receive the Debtor state. Enemies under the effect increases the crit damage of follow-up attacks by 25% as long as the selected enemies are the ones being targeted. This effect can stack up to 2 times. When the Proof of Depth state is removed, the Debtor state is also removed. With Topaz's E1, she'll also receive a 50% overall crit damage boost, which deals even more damage to enemy targets. On top of that, the crit damage effect doesn't even apply to just Topaz herself. It also applies to other follow-up attack units. Her E2 on the other hand improves her ultimate frequency. After Numby performs a follow-up attack, Topaz regenerates 5 energy. This is a pretty big upgrade, as it acts as a build-up to getting Topaz's ultimate more frequently, and with each follow-up attack Numby performs, it reduces the ultimate's cost by a lot. This is going to be another big upgrade for Topaz in longer battles. Her E4 is pretty good too, advancing Topaz by 20% after Numby's turn begins. This will allow Topaz to act sooner in the turn order, which improves her attack frequency even more. Depending on your team, this effect can trigger quite a lot, which allows Topaz to cycle through her turns faster, which means she and Numby will be dealing even more damage to enemies. Plus, she'll be able to regenerate her SP faster and her ultimate bar, which just adds a quality of life change and improving her overall damage. Her E6 is obviously going to be her best upgrade, allowing Numby's attack count to increase by 1 while in the Windfall Bonanza state, and its fire res pen is increased by 10% when it attacks. This means that while Numby is in the Windfall Bonanza state, instead of getting 2 attacks in the state, you get 3. And whenever Numby performs a follow-up attack, its fire res pen is increased by 10%. Now onto a Lightcones, which offers a variety of choices from free-to-play to gacha. Worrisome Blissful is going to be Topaz's best option, offering 18% crit rate to the wearer and increasing their follow-up attacks damage by 30%. When equipped with this Lightcone, enemies that are hit by a follow-up attack are afflicted with the Tame State, stacking up to 2 times. Any ally attacking an enemy unit under the Tame State gets their crit damage increased by 12% for every Tame stack on the enemies. This amplifies her personal damage as well as her teammates. Surprisingly, the crit damage effect isn't tied to follow-up attack units only. Any ally is able to utilize its benefits. S5 Swordplay is going to be Topaz's best free-to-play option, assuming that she has access to all 5 stacks throughout the battle. However, its performance may vary in battles where target swapping is required. For each hit the same enemy unit receives, the damage dealt is increased by 16% at S5, which is able to stack up to 5 times. However, the effect is removed if the wearer changes targets, so ally units are able to switch up their targets, but Topaz is unable to do the same due to the 1 enemy target restriction. Only Silence Remains at S5 is another free-to-play option worth considering. The wearer's attack is increased by 32%, and if there are 2 or less enemies on the field, the wearer's crit rate is increased by 24%. But again, its performance may vary if there are 2 or more enemies throughout any portion of the battle. Cruising in the Stellar Sea is a 5-star free-to-play option that you can get from her to store. At S5, the wearer gets a 16% crit rate boost and gets another 16% against enemy units with 50% or lower HP. Additionally, when the wearer defeats an enemy, their attack is increased by 40% for 2 turns. This is another Lightcone which has their performance vary throughout the battle since you want to maintain the attack and crit rate uptime. Final Victor is another okay option you can get from the Forgotten Horse shop. The wearer's attack is increased by 20% at S5. When the wearer lands a crit hit on an enemy, they will get a stack of Good Fortune that's able to be stacked up to 4 times. Every stack of Good Fortune increases the wearer's attack by 12%. However, every stack of Good Fortune increases the wearer's crit damage by 12%. However, the Good Fortune effect will be removed at the end of the wearer's turn. The crit damage buff is great to have since Topaz and Numby are able to make use of its effect. I would recommend this option if you don't have any other Lightcone options available to you. Finally, let's move on to her team options. Topaz is a follow-up unit, therefore her performance is maximized with other follow-up attack units. Fei Xiao, Topaz, Robin and Aventurine are her premium options as of now. Fei Xiao is able to dish out incredible damage with her ultimate, as well as performing follow-up attacks whenever an ally attacks an enemy target. Topaz is also able to offer their crit damage buffs to the entire team. She also offers proof of depth to the team, which just improves team-wide damage even more. At higher levels of investment such as her E1, S1, Topaz is able to increase their damage even more. Robin is another staple unit for this team comp as she offers 55% crit damage altogether from a talent and A4 trace. She also advances the entire team's action, which just allows for even more follow-up attacks and more team-wide damage. Aventurine also offers crit damage and shields to the team while dealing frequent follow-up attacks himself, and surprisingly, they actually deal pretty decent damage. You could also replace Aventurine with Linkshire if you're planning to roll for her too. A cool synergy worth noting between Topaz and Linkshire, imagine, is Topaz's turn. Numby just had a turn and Fuyan's turn is next. Topaz uses her basic attack, which advances Numby's action by 50%. Then Fuyan arrives and launches a follow-up attack which advances Numby by another 50%, which gives Numby another turn after Fuyan. Numby then starts their turn with a follow-up attack. Then if you use Linkshire's ultimate, you can get an advanced Fuyan action. Fuyan then performs a follow-up attack on the enemy, which advances Numby again by 50%. Dr. Ratio, Topaz and Aventurine is another solid team comp worth playing. Topaz is perfect for providing the debuff Dr. Ratio needs for his skill. With her E1, her Lightcone or even both, she can cover all of his debuff requirements while adding some strong follow-up attack debuffs to the enemy herself. The synergy works both ways too. Topaz gets a boost from Dr. Ratio whenever his follow-up attacks hits an enemy with a mark. Numby moves forward, giving you more actions to play with. You can also replace Dr. Ratio with Clara. Clara greatly benefits from the debuffs that Topaz provides and helps clear single target content or in places where enemies are a bit too slow of their actions, and improves her clears faster. You can also use Yinli as the main DPS for the same reason as Clara, which is just to increase your counter attacks against enemy units, and Topaz amplifies that damage even more. And that is going to be it for my Topaz guide. My opinion, Topaz is a fun and incredible unit worth pulling for your teams if you're building a follow-up attack comp. What teams are you going to run your Topaz in? Let me me know in the comments below. If you have any questions regarding Topaz, let me know in the comments too, and I'll do my best to get back to you. I'll see you guys in a bit.